Okay, this is section 33.2, the blood and lymphatic system. So when we're looking at blood, we have to look at the components of blood. In the components of blood, they can withdraw the blood from you and place it in what's called a centrifuge. And the centrifuge spins the blood around, and what it does is it separates the blood components by weight. So the heavier items will be at the bottom and the lighter items would be at the top. So when we look at the components of blood, we have plasma, platelets, hold on a second, there. We have plasma, platelets, white blood cells, and red blood cells. In the plasma, that makes up approximately 55% of your blood, and of that 55%, 90% of it is going to be water. Hold on. It's going to be water. There's also some proteins in there, salts, and the substances that are being transported, such as any nutrients, waste. Oxygen can be there, and carbon dioxide can be there also. Now the red blood cells, those are the ones on the top. They're also called erythrocytes. If you remember, erythro was the prefix for red. You also have white blood cells, leukocytes, leuc meaning white, and then you have platelets, and the platelets are involved in blood clotting. So the red blood cells have to do with oxygen. The white blood cells have to do with defending your body, and then the platelets have a lot to do with blood clotting. Now these red blood cells, obviously they carry oxygen, and that's their main function, is going to be to carry oxygen. And they do this with the help of this hemoglobin molecule. This hemoglobin molecule is a protein, and the heme part of the molecule is actually has the iron in it. If you see the little red dots here, there's one. There's another one over here on the right in the green part. The iron is what allows it to carry the oxygen. So if a person is anemic, in other words, they're low on iron, their blood would not carry as much oxygen as it could. And when it can't carry this much oxygen, you have less oxygen going to the body, going to the cells, and then you have less cellular respiration happening. And remember, cellular respiration is the way your body makes energy. Now in the white blood cells, we have about 5 different types. You have what are called neutrophils, and neutrophils are the first responders. They're the first ones to get to the scene if there's something happening in your body, any type of bacteria invasion or something like that. Your eosinophils, these will engulf or take in or kill the parasites. So if, say, you drink bad water and there's something in the water, that's what the eosinophils will get rid of. Basophils, on the other hand, have to do with allergies. And see, when you're allergic to something, your body gives off histamine. And when I say your body gives off histamine, it's actually these basophils that are giving off histamine. And histamine is what makes your nose run, what makes your eyes water. You might get a rash, you might itch, things like that. And so you would take an antihistamine, like Benadryl, and that kind of counteracts this. Monocytes have to do with your tissues. They help to destroy bacteria that are in your tissues. And then lymphocytes, you have 2 types. You have T cells and you have B cells. The T cells are concerned with cellular immunity. Cell immunity. Okay? And then your B cells have to do with antibodies. Okay? So they can destroy foreign cells, and some of them, see where it says some develop into cells that produce antibodies. That would be your B cells. And then T cell lymphocytes destroy foreign cells, and they help to protect your cells. If a person has the HIV virus and then it develops into a disease called AIDS, what the virus attacks are your T cells, so you don't really have any defense against any of these types of diseases. Here's a picture of some white blood cells. Here's a question. It says, explain why a person with a low red blood cell count is likely to experience fatigue. And you should say something about the hemoglobin maybe not carrying enough oxygen, and that oxygen needed to produce energy. So let's look at what happens when a blood vessel ruptures. So in your body, you have blood clotting, and you know what that is. That's how your blood stops bleeding, and it's made possible by proteins and platelets. Now with these proteins and platelets, you also have some clotting factors. You also have some clotting factors. And the clotting factors are proteins also. Right. Now, what happens is you have a break in the capillary wall and blood vessels ruptured. Well, these platelets rush to the scene and they release what's called thromboplastin. Okay, they release what's called thromboplastin. Let me delete that too. Okay, and that's in the little yellow here. And what this thromboplastin does is it converts prothrombin into thrombin. And that thrombin converts fibrinogen into fibrin. And fibrin is what is very important, and that's what you want. The fibrin is the fibers. Okay, if you look on this picture here, these blue looks kind of like this, looks kind of like that. That's your fibrin, and that's what prevents further blood loss. Okay, and that's what causes the clot when you say you have a blood clot. If you downloaded this, I want you to click on that link and you can watch a good video on blood clots. Okay, let's look at the lymphatic system. With the lymphatic system, as your blood circulates, there's fluid that leaks into your tissues. Okay, and it's kind of good that they leak into there, because that moves nutrients and salts from your blood into your tissues. Now this lymphatic system collects that fluid that's lost by the blood and returns it back to the circulatory system by way of the superior vena cava of your heart. Now this fluid is known as lymph. So you have lymphatic capillaries, you have lymphatic vessels, and they run kind of where your blood is. And you have ducts that collect the lymph, and they return it, like I said, to the circulatory system through two openings in your superior vena cava. And you remember where that is. That's on the right side of your heart, near the top. Now along these vessels you have little enlargements. That's all these little purple dots here. Those are your lymph nodes, and lymph nodes is probably what you have heard of. And the function of lymph nodes is to trap bacteria and other microorganisms, infection that's in your body. Infection, caused by bacteria. Now when you get a whole bunch or a large number of dead bacteria and there are microorganisms, then your lymph nodes might become enlarged. So that's why the doctor feels on the sides of your throat when you go in, if you're sick, and he looks to see if your lymph nodes are enlarged. Now here's a diagram that shows locations of them. You're not required to know the locations, but know that the spleen also collects these microorganisms, and that's an integral part of your lymphatic system. However, you can live without your spleen, but if you notice, it's right next to your liver. Okay, here's your liver, right here's your liver. Okay, and the liver also filters things out. It's not part of the lymph system, but it also filters things.